What's going on, everybody? If you're seeing this page, that means the official Torian Rain Reloaded merch store is now available. To get access to the store, make sure you go ahead and click the store tab on my YouTube channel. From there, you will be able to see all the merch that is available. We have mugs, shirts, hoodies, joggers, and so much more to come. All original designs made by yours truly, Torian Rain Reloaded. Now go ahead and get your merch today, and you can feel nothing in style. A short while ago, I have made a post up on Twitter saying there's a few questions you can pose to PC individuals to really determine how they feel about black people. One of those questions is, how do they think George Floyd actually died? Of course, there's a small percentage that will actually admit that, yes, it was from Derek Chauvin doing what he did. But the vast majority of them are going to talk about the little bit of fentanyl or drugs that was in his system that was found in the autopsy report that wasn't even enough to let him OD, let alone die from what actually happened. And that's the one that they will typically run with. Or speaking of the autopsy, they'll bring up that fake, phony, already debunked autopsy that wasn't even real in order to try to push their particular narrative as it pertains to George Floyd. It's like they basically have been having a hard on about that whole situation since it happened. I think I've mentioned this before because, you know, Derek Chauvin was the one that did not get away. And then all the other ones, they got some consequences as well. But I bring that up because that goes into this story right here, because George Floyd's name was invoked in this particular situation where out of Cape Cod, you had this 14-year-old PC individual try to drown this black boy. And then in the midst of him drowning him and calling him slurs, he called him George Floyd. Now, keep this in mind. This kid is 14 years old. George Floyd was murdered back in 2020, 3 years ago, which means he was 11. Still very much a minor. And he had the wherewithal to try to take out this other black boy by drowning him and calling him George Floyd. Y'all cannot sit up here and tell me that this is not something that they're either learning at home or they're in some of these chats or these forums in these spaces where they are being fed this type of information. And people say, oh, it's going to change with the youth. 14 is very youthful for him to do what he did in attempting to murder this boy and calling him George Floyd. And I don't want anybody to say, oh, we don't have to look and see and investigate. Was this a hate crime? It can't get much more of a hate crime than that. Let's just be real here. No need to question it. It is what it is. A 14-year-old white boy whose identity remains undisclosed because of his age, which honestly, because of what he did, his identity should not be disclosed if you want to ask me, because if the roles were reversed, we would have seen this black boy's image everywhere, or people would have been demanding it. Faces charges in an alleged racially motivated murder attempt involving another youth. Now, keep in mind how they word that. That's the same thing that they did when it came to Ryan Palmer down in Jacksonville. They say racially motivated instead of calling it a hate crime. It's very different tones and different words. They're basically, the racially motivated is the politically correct version of hate crime. Just call it what it is. The suspect reportedly threatened the victim with a stone and hurled the N-word at him, leading officials to denounce acts of hatred, particularly those based on race. And by the way, this happened in Cape Cod. And for those of y'all who don't know, Cape Cod is in Boston, Massachusetts. And we know that Boston, Massachusetts has a staunch anti-black history that goes back decades, maybe even centuries. District Attorney Robert Galaboy's, I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly or not, office said the incident occurred in Chatham, Massachusetts at Goose Pond on July 19th. Now, it happened on July 19th, and I'm recording this on September 6th, and this report just went out this week that I'm recording this video. Why is it they always want to be slow on the uptake when it comes to these type of situations? Like, this story should have been out there, but again, it goes back to a narrative that I haven't talked about in a very long time, and that's Operation Protect the White Boy. The teenager was at the pond with two others whom he reportedly told he could not swim. Reports say he was given a life jacket to support himself, and with this precaution, he got into the water with the boys he had just met that day. Once in the water, the juvenile defendant proceeded to pull the victim's life jacket and submerge him underwater 4 to 5 times, causing the victim breathing distress. The third juvenile laughed at the victim during the attempted drowning and referred to the victim as George Floyd, a press release from Gala Boys read. It sounds to me like the little black boy that was there was the only black boy that was there. And if that is indeed the case, I'm gonna have to bring it up again to the parents. Y'all need to really watch what friends y'all children have. If they are the only black kid in the peer group, yeah, you may need to pull them to the side and be like, look, really be careful. If I was you, I probably wouldn't even go with them, to be quite honest with you, because the stuff happens so fast. We've heard so many stories over the years where this has happened with other kids, even with either teenagers, older teenagers, even adults. Y'all remember the story that I was talking about with Kawan Charles, and I'm still constantly checking weekly to see if there's any update to come from that. It hasn't been one in like damn near a year now, but that's another situation where something like that actually occurred as well. And unfortunately with him, he ended up dying, but that too involved water, but that was down in Louisiana, if I'm not mistaken. The assault persisted as the 14-year-old swam beneath the black youth, attempting to seize his feet and submerge him again. The prosecution asserts that the bullying ceased when the victim cried out for assistance from the shoreline, prompting a bystander to leap into the water, rescue him, and bring him ashore. The teen was indicted by a grand jury on attempted murder and assault with a deadly weapon charge. The district attorney said that the boy's records shall be open to public inspection in the same manner and to the same extent as adult criminal court records. He should be charged as an adult, adding that all proceedings related to this case will be open to the public. On September 1st, both Chatham Select Board and Monomoy Regional School District issued statements regarding their positions on discrimination and diversity. Here comes the usual, the talking point that they usually release when it comes to say, oh, we don't condone this and that. But let's see what they say. We are disturbed and saddened to learn of the event that occurred earlier this summer between juveniles. We do not believe that it reflects the true nature of our community, which is diverse and inclusive. There it is. I knew it was coming. They always play this thing out the same way. We condemn all acts of violence, particularly those directed at children, the select board said, adding it aims to support the black child and his family during this time. The alleged actions are incredibly concerning and stand in stark contrast to the values we hold as school district and as a community, said Monomoy Superintendent Scott Carpenter. Acts of hatred and violence are unacceptable, he said, and we condemn any behavior that seeks to harm or marginalize others based on their race, ethnicity, or any other personal attribute. He also noted that neither the boy charged with attempted murder nor the other white child who passively participated in the traumatizing and terrorizing act by laughing attended school in the district. The teen attended a hearing on Thursday, August 31st in Barnstable Juvenile Court. A judge ordered he be held without bail. His next appearance in court is set for September 13th. So that's the entire article right there. So that basically laid it out for me right there. This black boy was the only black child there, and the other two that were there, the one that was laughing and they needed to get him too, plus the one that was trying to pull him under to try to drown him. So it sounds to me like the one that was trying to do the drowning, well, the one that was laughing was the one that called him George Floyd and called him the N-word. They probably both called him that, but then you had the other one that was doing the actual part of trying to drown this kid. Like I said, black parents, if you have a child out there, you need to know every single friend, quote unquote, your child has. I mean, every last one of them. I don't care if you have to check if they are on social media. I don't care if you have to check that, because stuff happens so fast. Between Kawan Charles, that woman that was the teacher she was the only black woman there, and she ended up dead, and they try to claim they don't know what happened to her. Then you had the black man down in South Carolina who went out on the boat and he was the only black guy on the boat, and then everyone else came back on the boat except him, and then when they were questioning those that was on the boat, they all gave different stories. You don't even hear about that story anymore, but I remember it because I remember talking about it, and that happened back in 2021. I can't remember the exact year it was, but that still plays out in my head, and this is a consistent thing. Thankfully, this black boy did not have the same fate and demise as the three examples I just gave, but it could have gotten there, because what if this boy yelled out for help and nobody came? What if nobody heard him? He would have died, and they probably would have got away with it because they said that he just met them that day, if I read the article correctly. So that means that they could have just pretended like they didn't know him when they were trying to find him, and they would have gotten away with it. So this boy is very, very lucky. And like I said, it's Operation Protect the White Boy yet again, because they haven't put out the identity of not only the boy who tried to drown him, but the boy who was laughing and calling him the N-word and calling him George Floyd. So like I tell y'all, people keep thinking that white supremacy is slowly like leaving and dissipating and fading into obscurity. It is still very much alive and in motion and moving strong, as if it just got started yesterday. People think, oh, because the older generation is dying out. No, they literally are grooming and have been grooming the next generation of PC supremacists to come and take their place. And I'm gonna be honest with you, these are the ones you really gotta watch out for, because they are in an age of technology, so they can really get it in the way that their elders, their grandparents, their great grandparents, and even in some cases their parents could not do. They had to literally do theirs on foot. Nowadays you can do it online, and then it can lead to something. But I'm glad at the end of the day that this boy is okay, that, you know, everything, you know, is going to be working out for him. I'm sure they're going to have, you know, if this hopefully does go to court, he's going to definitely testify, because he is the star and key witness in this whole situation. And all I can do is say is I hope that they actually throw the book at the boy, and I hope the one that was there gets some charges as well, because they didn't really focus too much on him. They really only focused on the one that tried to drown him. But he deserves some time as well, considering he was there and didn't do anything, and he called him the slur and George Floyd. So some hate crime charges need to fall upon him as well.
A white 14-year-old boy is out on bail after prosecutors say he tried to drown a black teenager in a pond in Chatham. And as WBZ's Louisa Moeller tells us, today in court we learned this isn't the only racially motivated accusation against him.
You can see 14-year-old John Sheeran leaving court after his bail hearing, briskly walking and barely saying a word as he got into a car with his father. A judge said he can live in Chatham on a GPS device.
Mr. Sheeran, do you want to...
This all stems from an incident in July where a 15-year-old black boy says Sheeran texted him to come to a Chatham pond. Then Sheeran and another boy allegedly threw rocks at this boy and asked him to come into the water. The young man does not know how to swim and wore a life jacket. That's when investigators say Sheeran repeatedly pulled him under the water, once called him the N-word, and another boy called him George Floyd.
This young man, Jack Sheeran, held onto his life jacket and pulled me under the water and back and up and back repeatedly about 4 to 5 times. While doing it, water went into the victim's mouth and nose, and he could not breathe. He started to shout, "I can't breathe," over and over again, and tried to get Mr. Sheeran's hands off him. Mr. Sheeran let go, and the other child started laughing. He called him George Floyd.
The boys allegedly did stop when another child on the beach swam over to intervene. Sheeran's defense attorney, Kevin Reddington, says it was reckless teenage behavior, not attempted murder.
This young man has had absolutely no intent to murder his friend.
Is your client remorseful?
Of course, absolutely.
All of these details were heard in court as community members listened, and some of them say what resulted was not justice.
This young man was lucky he didn't lose his life, but someone attempted to do that. Why would you hold somebody down knowing he's saying, "I can't breathe"? He feared for his life.
Hours after the July incident, the prosecutor says that Sheeran punched a 13-year-old Asian boy in the face after that boy called him fat. Attorney Reddington says that his client apologized to that boy's family, and they declined to press charges. In Barnstable, Louisa Moeller, WBZ News.
So that's an update that I had to throw into there, because I had to incorporate this in here somehow. And ironically, the way that I found out about this, I was on another live stream and I just happened to type that in because the topic of Cape Cod happened to pop up when it talked about a whole different topic. And I said, let me go see if there was any updates with this. Now, of course, in the initial part, it didn't have this kid's name, and I'm gonna be honest, he looks way older than 14. Like y'all saw the first image, and y'all will see in the second one. He looks way older than 14. Like he looks like someone you would ask for ID if he was going somewhere. And he looks very oddly like a young Tucker Carlson. And then when you see what he did and how he is, the parallels are all lining up for me right here. Now, as you heard, he pretty much got out of jail. He got bonded out. He looks like he definitely comes from money, because I believe that bond, if I'm correct, and y'all can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, was around $75K. And of course, at 10%, that's $7,500, but that's still a lot of money. And the fact that he got bonded out so fast, and it wasn't like a 1, 2 week, 3 week, whatever process, it didn't take them long to get the money, means that he most likely does come from money. So they pretty much try to make it seem like he did absolutely nothing wrong, even though there's evidence to show that, yes, this is exactly what he did. Now, what really got me was when they were talking about how he had punched an Asian kid in the face because they called him fat. I could barely control my laughter when they said that. But they said that the Asian kid's parents didn't press charges. I can't help but wonder, if this was a black kid that punched that Asian kid, would their parents have pressed charges? Because, you know, they got to push along this or toe this line that we are the ones that are attacking them. But I found it very interesting they didn't press charges against him then. Now, I wonder what the effect of what would have happened had they actually pressed charges against him at that time. Would they have continued to go through, or would he still have gotten another slap on the wrist? I hope that that's not the case here, because at the end of the day, not only was this a hate crime that he and his friend committed, they need to talk about that friend too, but this is also attempted murder. And that's what they keep trying to leave out. Again, in this news clip, they use that terminology of motivated, racially hate charge, whatever, something that doesn't make sense. Basically an anti-black hate crime. Again, they call it something so vague than what it actually is. But at the end of the day, this is what this kid is. And like I said, he does not look 14. When I saw his picture, I said, y'all expect me to believe he's 14? He looks like he's at least 10 years older. At least 10 years older. Maybe give him about an additional 5 years. He looks closer to 30 than he does to 14. Kind of reminds you of that scene from Bad Boys 2 when Reggie came to the door.
How old are you?
I'm 15, Mr. Bennett.
Motherfucker, you look 30.
But yeah. I'm not surprised that he got bonded out. I'm going to try my best to stay on top of this story, because I want to see what the outcome of this is going to be.